Okay, hello and welcome. In this video on stewardship and resident engagement in CLTs, we'll show how residents drive the success of community land trust and help build strong, lasting communities. But first, let's go over this important disclaimer. This session is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions shared in this session are those of the presenter and might not reflect the views of SFCLT. The information provided is meant for learning and should not replace advice from a qualified professional. San Francisco Community Land Trust formed in 2003 to combat displacement pressures in San Francisco. Today, we own and steward 16 buildings with 180 units of permanently affordable housing for either rent or limited equity ownership. All of our properties are located in San Francisco, but for the last 2 years, we have also provided technical support to other CLTs and small developers across the Bay Area. This includes assistance with asset management, brokerage, and developing financial pro formas. We're a team of professionals from many fields: law, policy, real estate, finance, social work, co-op development, and the arts. Together, we use our skills to create housing that isn't just affordable today, but stays affordable forever. My name is Mayerlin Castillo, and I am the Resident Engagement and Co-op Program Manager, and I will be presenting this video. So what do you learn today? We'll walk through the full arc of this work, from tenant organizing and community partnerships to stewardship, governance, and self-managed co-ops. I'll share real examples that show how residents are not just recipients of housing, but active contributors to their homes' long-term care and stability. This presentation is for everyone, whether you are new to community land trust, interested in cooperative housing, or involved in housing justice and community development. Our goal is to share a clear and practical overview of how people come together to protect housing and build collective power. Before we go further, I would like to remind us that the ideas we're talking about today are not new, and each of us carries this knowledge. And we might be using modern language, but the knowledge behind this work lives deep in our collective story. For centuries, ancestral communities around the world organized themselves doing this by sharing the land, dividing labor, and caring for the children, the elders, and the most vulnerable. Indigenous communities across the Americas, throughout Africa, and in parts of India, or here in the United States, Black communities in the post-emancipation era developed systems rooted in cooperation, mutual responsibility, and collective survival. Displacement and block to access to basic needs have become common. These pressures make it harder to build relationships, to raise our families, and pass resources across generations. Community land trusts, or CLTs, as I will be referring to, emerge as a response to this reality, taking from ancestral wisdom to meet our current housing challenges. So, what makes community land trust different from other affordable housing models? While CLTs might develop housing, their core purpose is to protect tenant stability and ensure long-term community control of the land. CLTs remove housing from the speculative market and hold it in trust for future generations. But more importantly, their work centers residents by building collective power, encouraging participation, and creating pathways for shared decision making. In our case, all of SFCLT most successful projects begin with tenant organizing. And this mission shapes how we acquire the properties, who we partner with, and when we intervene. Many CLTs across the country focus mostly on organizing rather than development alone. And the drive is a commitment to community-led solutions and housing justice. So now let's talk about tenants organizations. They play a critical role in preventing displacement as well. They identify risk as they happen. They share real-time information about buildings and landlords and help residents organize collective responses. In San Francisco, SFCLT works alongside a strong ecosystem of frontline tenants organizations, including the Housing Rights Committee of San Francisco, the San Francisco Anti-Displacement Coalition, and the South of Market Community Action Network. These groups often are first in identifying displacement risk and organizing tenants before the CLT becomes involved. So this work fits together in a complementary way. Tenant groups organize and advocate for residents. At the same time, SFCLT works with property owners, funders, and public agencies to preserve housing. Together, this creates a clear path from housing crisis to long-term community ownership. It's important to mention that this model might look different across counties or states, but the goal of creating this coalition remains the same: protecting people and their homes, like the case of the 14th Street tenants in the Mission. That you can see here in this photo, the tenants and representatives of South of Market Community Action Network in one of their many strikes, fighting for their housing rights. In the case of the residents of the 14th Street, tenants began organizing after years of poor living conditions under Verita investments. They worked with the Housing Rights Committee of San Francisco, and they formed a tenants union. So the union reached out to SFCLT because they wanted to stay in their homes and preserve the community through cooperative ownership. The CLT first connected with the tenants in the fall of 2022. At that time, the only funding option available was through the Small Sites program, which didn't work because it would have meant losing rent control and offer no path to ownership. As Veritas began defaulting on its portfolio, SFCLT continued exploring other options, including the Foreclosure Intervention Housing Preservation Program. In November 2023, Veritas lost ownership of the building, and 320 14th Street was transferred to the Prado Group. Then, in the spring of 2024, a key opportunity emerged when, through funding for the Regional Early Action Planning Grants, or known as REAP 2.0, became available. This funding preserved rent control and opened a real path towards tenant ownership. Now, with a clear direction from the tenants, SFCLT moved forward with the application and began negotiation with Prado, the latest owners. In August 2024, SFCLT signed a contract purchase contract, and in November 2024, SFCLT officially purchased 320 14th Street. Throughout this entire process, tenants were clear that they want SFCLT to be the buyer and to support land community control in their buildings. Another successful example of tenant organizing is 3975 24th Street, which came to the CLT attention because of the tenants. At 24th Street, long-term tenants reached out when their building went on the market. Even with funding uncertainty, tenants stepped up They reached out to elected officials and advocated for long-term preservation, and their leadership helped secure a 99-year affordability commitment. These stories make it clear that tenant organizing isn't symbolic. It leads to real lasting change. Just a moment to pause, breathe, and let's do a quick recap. So we look at the historical roots of organizing, how community land trust differs from other affordable housing models, and why tenant organizing sits at the center of the CLT work. We also talk about the importance of collaboration and coalition building in creating real concrete change. Finally, we walked through the journeys of two tenants organizing efforts. The journey doesn't stop there, right? After acquisition, a new relationship begins. Tenants become residents, and the CLT takes on the role of long-term steward in collaboration with the community. A quick note, language matters here at SFCLT. We refer to tenants as residents, FYI, so I will use both terms, tenants and residents. It's also important to note that not all buildings become co-ops. Most remain multifamily rentals, but stewardship and resident participation are essential in every building. Stewardship includes things like resident education, budget transparency, and involvement in governance. This approach applies to both co-op and non-co-op buildings, and it helps clarify the roles of residents, co-op boards, and the land trust. And that's where we'll talk next. Stewardship and resident engagement takes many forms. It can include attending orientations, reporting maintenance issues, participating in workshops, or sharing ideas about community care. And to support this, SFCLT offers orientations and welcome events where the new and long-term residents meet face-to-face with staff, with their neighbors, board members, and volunteers. They also learn about our work, we share food, and we take this opportunity to address their concerns and to clarify their questions. And while SFCLT brings technical expertise, the lasting success depends on residents being really involved in decisions that affect their homes. So we continuously offer resources, technical assistance, and training opportunities, both internally or from external parties, so that we can help residents to build capacity as well as trust. Some examples of these trainings include the CLT and Co-op 101 workshop, the event on recycling and best practices, materials, and community events. For self-managed co-ops, we have offered workshops on communication and conflict management, effective meetings, maintenance committee, and vacancy and new members onboardings, treasurer work, as well as house agreements and decision-making processes. Another key aspect of stewardship is the transparency around budgets. We have held a budget meeting every year to give residents insight into how funds are allocated and spent. And starting in 2026, we will hold quarterly budget reviews with the co-op members, and we'll also integrate budget and financial education during the orientation events. This approach builds on what we learned from past meetings, where residents actively engage, asked questions, and contributed valuable input on building expenses and priorities. Regular meetings like this give all co-op members the chance to stay informed, participate in decisions, and help plan for major repairs and replacements. Another important tool of community power and active resident participation for a CLT is the board of directors. The board is a group of people elected to make important decisions about how a CLT is managed. They are responsible for ensuring the CLT operates effectively and follows its guiding principles. The board is composed of three groups: one-third community members, such as educators, business owners, and other local leaders. One-third are experts with specific skills in areas like law, policy, finance, and more. And the last third is residents. The board is key to making sure CLTs work well, and it makes sure that the land remains under community control. This helps ensure fair and equitable access to resources at the same time that it promotes cooperation and shared responsibility. So it's through these efforts that CLT support individuals and communities in growing, succeeding together. As I mentioned before, SFCLT works with both family rental buildings and self-managed co-ops. In both co-ops and rental buildings, stewardship is really about transparency, collaboration, and building trust. In this section, we'll explore two models of shared responsibility and housing: family rental buildings and self-managed co-ops. In all buildings, residents or tenants play a key role in keeping their homes safe and well maintained. This slide illustrates the relationship between tenants, the CLT, and the property management team. Currently, we work with two different management companies across our portfolio, each supporting residents and staff in maintaining their buildings. Tenants sign a lease agreement with the CLT, who in turn hires a property management provider to manage the building, the maintenance, the repairs, and rent payments. They report issues and submit work orders directly to the property management, the tenant. And the company then hires a resident manager who responds to emergencies and handles day-to-day operations, ensuring the building runs smoothly. Finding reliable property management partners can be challenging, but once you identify a company that meets your needs and provides good value, it's crucial to invest in a long-term relationship. The same principle applies to vendors. Strong, lasting partnerships are essential to maintaining a stable, well-managed community. Some buildings transition into self-managed co-ops, where residents take on responsibilities typically handled by property management companies. These include maintenance, vacancy filling, and onboarding new members. Through forming committees that support this work, and their participation is recognized through reduced rent. Clear roles and good documentation are key. Tools like maintenance roadmaps and Darcy tables help define responsibilities and prevent burnout. In self-managed co-ops, residents take a direct role in maintaining and managing their homes. The co-op maintenance committee handles repairs and upkeep, working closely with the co-op manager and the asset management team. This shared responsibility allows residents to take on tasks that will normally be handled by a property management company. Members commit to participating in at least one active committee. In self-managed co-ops, these committees typically include maintenance and vacancy filling or new member onboarding. Each co-op also has a board, whose main role is to facilitate meetings, and beyond this, boards oversee important functions like reviewing and providing input on budgets, planning for major repairs, implementing and ensuring that the house rules are followed. Finally, boards support community engagement by organizing events, workshops, and communications that strengthen participation and build cohesion. Together, the committees and the board allow self-managed co-ops to operate effectively and at the same time encourages residents to take ownership of their homes and their community. Let's take a closer look at the self-managed co-op maintenance committee, for example. How do they work with the co-op manager and the asset management team to keep the building running smoothly? The maintenance committee is responsible for making sure that all needed repairs and maintenance are completed in a timely manner. They handle communications with outside vendors and companies for jobs that need special skills. They keep track of maintenance costs and make sure all work stays within the approved budget. They respond to residents' maintaining requests and work orders and communicate expected timelines and solutions. And they keep records of all maintenance work, communications with vendors, and spending. They send the invoices to the CLT for bookkeeping. So this is an example of how the self-managed co-op work in our CLT, and you can, of course, adapt this to the needs of your community. So here's a roadmap that illustrates the work of the maintenance committee. And all start with an initial assessment, estimates, and a scope of work. So that's when we start. Then a request is submitted to the CLT for approval. Once they have that approval, they assign and schedule the work with the vendor. Then they notify the residents to make sure there is access and that someone is available to oversee the work and confirm it has been completed. And the last one is they can pay vendors directly, and they also can direct vendors to the CLT so the asset management team can make those payments. So again, this is an example of how the maintenance committee of the self-managed co-op works at SFCLT. And if you have questions about more details about this work, feel free to contact us for more information. Another way that co-op members work with asset management is through the vacancy process. So they help to keep vacancy rates low and ensure a stable occupancy. This diagram shows the application process used at one of our self-managed co-ops, the MGR. But each co-op can adapt this to fit its own structure and needs, of course. When a person is interested, they'll submit an application. They will notify about the open house. If they continue to decide with the process, right? So then we'll move to the next step. If they decide not to continue with this process, maybe they can apply in the future, or maybe they can look at other CLT properties. But let's say that this applicant is interested. So it's a yes. So after the open house, they will attend an individual interview. The membership makes a decision. So if it's a yes, the co-op notifies that the applicant is interested, and the CLT contact the applicants for the next steps, meaning interview, income certification, background check. So once this process has been approved, we notify the co-op, and then they can coordinate a moving day, and a cost letter is sent so they will know how much is their moving costs, including the deposits and first month. The applicants send the payments, and the SFCLT sends a lease agreements. And here we go. We have a new member on the self-managed co-op. Lastly, I would like to share this very essential tool, especially when you are working in collaboration with several parties, because clear processes and documentations are fundamental to cultivate collaboration and trust. And one tool we use to support this in self-managed co-ops is the Darcy table. The Darcy table clearly defines who drives, who approves, who is responsible, who is consulted, and who is informed for each task or process. It prevents confusion, avoids overlap, and ensures decisions are made efficiently. From my experience supporting co-ops and other collective spaces, everyone brings valuable expertise shaped by their own experiences. So listening to each other and addressing the needs of those directly affected by the CLT decisions is essential for sustaining collaboration and the strong relationships that help this community thrive. So working together in the creation of this document is essential for building trust and maintaining shared responsibility. So I encourage you to work on this together with all the parties involved for transparency and shared responsibility. Then you can see in this table, I'm gonna go briefly. So we have here all the activities on the first column, and this is specific for the vacancy filling committee. So these are all the activities that occur from point A until the point that we already have selected a candidate. We have the decider, the accountable person, the responsible, the consulted, and the informed. And as you can see, in the different roles, also you can see MGR, which is the co-op, works together with the SFCLT. So in some of these processes, the co-op are the responsibles for following up and taking care of these activities on the left, and some of them we work in collaboration. So this is clear. If at any point any member has a question about who is supposed to do what, they can review this table and see who is responsible and who they should be communicating these actions to. We can share this also in an attachment if you like to use this template. Okay, so as I mentioned before, each self-managed co-op has a board whose main role is to facilitate meetings. The exception is the board of directors at CUC, the only limited equity housing co-op, or LEHC, which I'll cover in the next slide, because the responsibilities for stewardship and financial management are much more extensive. But as far as the self-managed co-op board members, the responsibility involves functions like reviewing and providing input on budgets, planning for major repairs, implementing policies, and ensuring that house rules are followed. Finally, boards support community engagement by organizing events, workshops, and communications that strengthen the participation in the membership. Together, these structures allow self-managed co-ops to operate effectively while empowering residents to take ownership of their community. So let's take a closer look at how responsibilities are divided between a limited equity housing co-op and the CLT. This table highlights the different areas of work from day-to-day operations to stewardship and financial management. So we can see where the co-op takes the lead and where the CLT provides support. When it comes to financial management, there are many parties involved, including the property management company, the co-op board, SFCLT, as well as external professionals. So the care of the physical building is mainly managed by the committees and the assistance of professional contractors hired by the maintenance committee. So as you can see, their activities are regarding to the physical property management and there who is in charge. So for any things like large maintenance and repairs, they will hire a contractor. For move out and move inspections and repairs, the vacancy committee and the maintenance committee are the ones that coordinate those activities. All related to safety, insurance, inspections, both the resident manager and the maintenance committee work together. For janitorial interior, the co-op employee, for the janitorial exterior, the resident manager. Roof leaks, maintenance committee, schedule and coordinate pest controls, which is an activity that we recommend that they pursue every year. Um, the maintenance committee with the support of a professional contractor is another example. When it comes to asset management, such as major construction projects, income certification, compliance, reporting, insurance renewal, preparing building budgets, and managing property taxes, these responsibilities primarily fall to the CLT. So here you can see that the main role for the CLT with the limited equity co-op house is on the compliance aspect. Makes the co-op so much stronger and sustainable in the long run, having this support system to work on these areas. That's where co-ops tend to fail. So this is also an important key for the support of the co-ops that are in the CLT land. So difference between the board roles and the CLT roles, right? So finally, there are many functions and activities related to resident life, and these are primarily managed by the co-op board with support from the CLT. These include setting new policies, such as unit inspections, unit transfers, bed bug policy, providing education, training, and technical assistance to the board and the committees, organizing social events and community building activities, and enforcing house rules, including noise, smoking, and other expectations outlined in the governing documents. The CLT provides guidance and support to ensure consistency, resources, and alignment with the broader stewardship goals. The board's role is focused on day-to-day operations and community life. They facilitate meetings, oversee budgets, implement policies and house rules, and support resident engagement through events and workshops. In short, the board empowers residents to take ownership of their homes and their community. The CLT, on the other hand, provide guidance, resources, and oversight to support the board and ensure long-term financial sustainability. While it's rare for a CLT to be deeply involved in asset management, SFCLT takes on this role to safeguard the success of their buildings. In the case of CUC, strong, long-standing commercial tenants generate income that allows the co-op to fund staff from the very beginning, supporting both operations and resident engagement. So tenant organizing is at the heart of our work. Resident participation strengthens governance, build community, and protect housing from the long term. The success of CLTs depends on collaboration, tenants, tenants organizing, housing justice organizations, co-op members, CLTs, and allies. We all play a role in sustaining this housing model. Like any movement for social change, the long-term success of community land trust depends on working together. As take-home reflections and suggestions, I invite you to join coalitions, build networks with housing and community organizations, collaborate with other CLTs, keep learning and training, and share resources and ask for support. We don't have to do this work alone, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Together, we can strengthen communities and protect housing from generations to come. Thank you so much. And if you want to reach out, just send us an email, check out our website, or connect with us on social media. We would love to hear from you. Thanks again and take care.